It all started about 30 years ago, when beings from other worlds, or metahumans with incredible superpowers, began appearing on Earth. The very first was a baby boy who arrived in a spaceship from an unknown planet. He was found and raised by a farming family in Kansas, who treated him as their own son. Growing up, he became the most powerful of all the metahumans, and so he came to be known as Superman. Then, just 3 weeks ago, Superman intervened, stopping the nation of Boravia from invading its neighboring country, Jarhanpur, which sparked a worldwide controversy. And just 3 hours ago, a mysterious metahuman calling himself the Hammer of Boravia came to Superman's own city, Metropolis, to get revenge for his country. He attacked Superman, and for the first time ever, Superman was brutally defeated. He could barely move, but with all his strength, he managed to let out a whistle. Hearing the call, Krypto the superdog instantly arrives. But Krypto, being his overly playful and mischievous self, sees his injured owner and thinks it's time to play, causing Superman to cry out in pain. Through the agony, Superman keeps trying to tell him to take him home. Finally, after some difficulty, Krypto understands. He needs to get Superman to the Fortress of Solitude, his home. Krypto grabs Superman's red cape in his mouth and starts dragging him across the snow. Ahead of them, Superman's fortress rises out of the ice. Krypto barks, and the fortress doors open. As soon as they're inside, his super robots lift him onto a medical stretcher to begin the healing process. To ease his pain, they play the last holographic message from his birth parents. However, the second half of the message is corrupted, so Superman has never been able to hear it all. In the part he can hear, they tell him to protect the people of his new home. Just then, the super robots use a series of lenses to focus sunlight, amplifying its power thousands of times, and direct the beam onto Superman's body. In the blink of an eye, he's completely healed. Superman tells Krypto to stay put and flies back to the city to finish the fight. Meanwhile, Superman's archnemesis, Lex Luthor, the billionaire, obsessive genius, and scientific mastermind behind Luthor Corp, has assembled an anti-Superman team to destroy him. The team includes Angela, also known as the Engineer. Luthor experimented on her, infusing her blood with nanites that allow her to create anything she can imagine. The Engineer successfully locates Superman's fortress. But because the fight between Superman and the armored metahuman, Ultraman, has started again, Luthor calls her back. Ultraman attacks according to Luthor's commands. Luthor had prepared nearly 250 countermoves for every possible attack Superman could make, and he controls Ultraman remotely with a drone. Because of this, Ultraman easily defeats Superman for a second time. Luthor and his entire team celebrate their victory. Ultraman then steps through a portal that takes him from the battle straight into Luthor's command center. The public has no idea that this metahuman's real name is Ultraman, or that he's secretly working for Luthor. Everyone is under the impression that he's a soldier from Boravia. On the other side of town, Superman, keeping his identity a secret, works as a reporter named Clark Kent for the Daily Planet news channel. A fellow reporter there, named Lane, is also Clark's secret girlfriend. Just then, the president of Boravia holds a press conference, claiming his country has no connection to the metahuman known as the Hammer of Boravia. He blames Superman for ruining his country's relationship with America. Elsewhere, Luthor meets with U.S. General Rick and other government officials. He argues that because of Superman, they now have an enemy in Boravia and proposes that his Planet Watch team should capture Superman for national security. He shows them his team, which consists of Ultraman, the Engineer, and flying soldiers called Raptors. General Rick isn't convinced. Making things worse, Director Crowley accuses Luthor, stating that Boravia bought weapons from his company, and this conflict would only benefit him by allowing him to eliminate Superman and expand his arms business. In the end, they all reject Luthor's proposal to capture Superman, not wanting to anger the public. Later that night, Clark meets with his girlfriend, Lane. She's the only one who knows that Clark is Superman. She's interviewing him, asking why he stopped Boravia, an American ally, from attacking Jarhanpur. Clark tries to explain that he doesn't take sides. He just wanted to save people from dying, whether they are good or bad. But Lane keeps bringing up the political relationship between their country and Boravia. Frustrated, Clark tells her that his parents sent a message with him to Earth. They wanted him to help humans and make the world a better place. After the argument, Clark sadly and quietly leaves. The next day, Luthor takes Ultraman, the engineer, and his new girlfriend, Eve, to Superman's hidden fortress in Antarctica. As he approaches, the fortress automatically rises from the ice, and its door opens just as it would for Superman. The engineer is stunned by this. Inside, the super robots initially think the visitor is Superman, but Ultraman and the engineer destroy all of them. Krypto manages to attack the engineer, but she uses her nanite technology to seal his mouth shut. She then begins collecting all the data in the fortress. Luthor had already released a small, fire-breathing kaiju into the city to buy time and stop Superman from coming there. Meanwhile, the engineer, absorbing all the data, begins to grow in size. She finds the full, uncorrupted message from Superman's parents and decodes it. By morning, the kaiju has grown to a monstrous size. Superman arrives to fight it while saving people. To help him, the Justice Gang, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific also arrive and begin attacking the kaiju. Superman focuses on protecting civilians from the fallout of their fight. Mr. Terrific quickly analyzes the kaiju, finds its weak spot, and sends his drones inside its body, blowing it up from within. Superman catches the creature's massive body, preventing it from crushing the people below, and gently lays it on the ground. At that moment, Luthor goes on a live TV interview and plays the decoded message from Superman's parents for the whole city to hear. In the message, his parents tell him to take many wives on Earth to re-establish the Kryptonian race and rule over the planet ruthlessly. Once this secret is out, the entire public turns against Superman. He tries to explain to the Justice Gang that his parents wanted him to protect people and that the rest of the message was corrupted. Suddenly, he remembers that Luthor must have gone to his fortress to get the message. He immediately flies to his fortress and finds all his super robots destroyed and the system in ruins. Only one robot is clinging to life. Superman asks it, "The key to this place is my DNA, so how did Luthor get in?" But before he can get an answer, the robot dies. Superman calls for Krypto, but he's nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, the US government turns against Superman and issues a warrant for his arrest. The president of Boravia also goes on live TV, bad-mouthing Superman and trying to paint himself as a victim, but in reality, he's also working with Luthor. After the interview, he walks into his office and uses a portal created by Luthor to enter a small pocket dimension. There, Luthor tells him that the message from Superman's parents was completely true. He hadn't altered it at all. After the meeting, Luthor returns to his office building. Just then, an enraged Superman smashes through the wall of his tower. He confronts Luthor and demands to know where his dog, Krypto, is. Seeing Superman so angry, Luthor's girlfriend Eve starts live-streaming the confrontation. Luthor pretends he has no idea what's going on. Once the video goes public, it only turns more people against Superman. Later that night, his girlfriend Lane comes to his apartment. Superman tells her he has no desire to rule over anyone. Lane shows her trust in him. Superman then decides to surrender to General Rick to find Krypto. However, Ultraman treats him harshly, slamming him to the ground and tying his hands. The government then puts Luthor in charge of interrogating the captured Superman. Ultraman and the engineer take him to a military base that is now under Luthor's control. There, they shove Superman through a portal into the pocket universe created by Luthor. Seeing the place, Superman asks Luthor about it. Luthor explains he created a machine that caused a small explosion, just like the one that created our universe, which tore a crack in time, and this is that crack. Luthor then introduces him to Metamorpho, who is sitting with them. He can change his body into any element or substance. Just then, Metamorpho transforms his hand into kryptonite and brings Superman to his knees, as kryptonite crystals are the only thing in the universe that can drain Superman's powers. Luthor then tells a weakened Superman that he keeps all his enemies and even his old girlfriends imprisoned here. Suddenly, Superman spots Krypto, trapped in an illusion by Luthor. It turns out Luthor was holding Metamorpho's infant son, Joy, hostage, forcing him to obey all of Luthor's commands. Meanwhile, at the Daily Planet, Lane discovers that of the $6 trillion worth of weapons Luthor sold to Boravia, he has only received $13 billion. This means he wasn't trying to make a profit from selling weapons. Something else was going on. Realizing this, Jimmy reluctantly messages his secret informant to find out where Superman is. The informant is none other than Luthor's girlfriend, Eve. She was actually in love with Jimmy, but he didn't feel the same. However, Eve was afraid of being trapped in Luthor's pocket universe if she betrayed him. Jimmy explains that if they get proof against Luthor, the government will arrest him and put him in jail. The only thing Eve understands is that if Luthor is arrested, she'll be free to be with Jimmy. Back in the prison, the captured Superman tells Metamorpho that if he removes the kryptonite, he can save his son. But Metamorpho just burns Superman's face and tells him to shut up. On the other side, Lane asks the Justice Gang for help saving Superman. Mr. Terrific tells her that his parents' message is completely authentic and hasn't been tampered with at all. Lane then learns they all know Clark is Superman. Mr. Terrific adds that finding him won't be hard, because he secretly planted nanobot GPS trackers in Superman's blood. The signal stopped at an abandoned military base, confirming he's in some kind of pocket universe. Now, only Mr. Terrific agrees to help Lane. He takes her in his ship, and they head for the military base. In the pocket universe, Luthor brings out the president of Boravia and an ordinary man who once helped Superman. He puts a revolver to the man's temple and demands Superman tell him about his allies and his adoptive parents. When he gets no answer, Luthor shoots the man. At his death, Superman screams in agony. Seeing this, even Metamorpho is terrified. Luthor says he'll bring Clark next and leaves. Meanwhile, Mr. Terrific and Lane arrive at the base, and he takes out every soldier there. Inside a tent, they find the machine that opens the portal. Seeing it, he tells Lane that if the portal stays open for too long, time itself will start to fracture and reality will shatter. He then hacks the portal and opens it. On the other side, Metamorpho, heartbroken by the man's death, starts to cry. He makes Superman promise to save his child, then removes the kryptonite. But Superman tells him he needs the yellow sun's radiation to heal. So, Metamorpho recreates the elements found in sunlight, generating radiation with the same power, which instantly heals Superman. Superman rescues Joy and gives him to his father. But Metamorpho tells Superman to take care of his son, because he can't change his form while holding him. As Superman protects Joy, he fights off the enemies while Metamorpho turns into acid and melts them all. Back at the base, Mr. Terrific tries to locate Superman with his drones. But with the portal open for so long, it begins to shrink. He manages to find Krypto just in time. Just before the portal closes, he succeeds in getting everyone out of the pocket universe. However, the kryptonite poison has spread throughout Superman's body. Mr. Terrific tells Lane to take him somewhere safe for 2 days, where the sunlight can heal him on its own. Hearing that Superman escaped the pocket universe, Luthor goes mad with rage. He lashes out at his girlfriend Eve for no reason and insults her as he throws her out of the control room. Crying, Eve secretly calls Jimmy and, before she's captured, sends him a file with all the evidence against Luthor. When Jimmy opens the file Eve sent, he sees it's just a collection of her selfies. Meanwhile, Lane takes Superman to his adoptive parents' farmhouse. There, Jimmy sends all of Eve's photos to Lane. At first, Lane is disappointed, but looking closer, she realizes that hidden behind each selfie is proof against Luthor and his future plans. Back in the city, Luthor, trying to lure Superman out, decides to reopen the portal at the military base, despite his team's warnings that it will create a black hole and swallow the Earth. Luthor, knowing this, says he has the codes to seal the rupture in time. He ignores everyone and opens the portal, and a crack in time begins to tear through the Earth. On the other side, Clark, now fully recovered, is saddened as he tells his adoptive father about his real father's second message. His father comforts him, saying that his decisions and actions define his character, and everything he's done so far makes him incredibly proud. Clark smiles after hearing this. Just then, he sees on the news that Boravia's army is once again at Jarhanpur's border, preparing to attack. The innocent people of Jarhanpur stand ready to face them with sticks rocks and axes. Among them, children make flags with Superman's symbol and begin to call for him. Seeing this, the adults also start chanting Superman's name. But before Superman can leave for Boravia, Mr. Terrific contacts him, tells him about the rupture in time tearing through Earth, and asks him to come to Metropolis immediately. The government has already issued a warning for people to evacuate the city. Meanwhile, Lane tells her chief editor about Luthor's entire plan. He's helping Boravia so that after they conquer Jarhanpur, they will give half of the land to Luthor. There, he plans to build the world's largest digital estate and get even richer by drilling for crude oil. Furthermore, his experiments are what's causing the cracks in the universe, and he orchestrated the whole situation to capture Superman so he wouldn't interfere. Upon getting permission from her chief editor, Lane and Jimmy prepare an article against Luthor. By now, the crack tearing through Earth has reached the city. Luthor detaches his control room from his building just before it splits in two. His control room was actually a space jet. Superman once again starts saving people. At that moment, the engineer attacks Mr. Terrific, and Ultraman attacks Superman. Luthor orders the engineer to fill Superman's lungs with her nanites and kill him by stopping his breath, and she does. But Superman manages to recover and flies straight up. The engineer and Ultraman grab him and try to pull him back down as they fight. However, Superman reaches space in his weakened state. From there, he dives back toward Earth at supersonic speeds. The impact of his landing causes the engineer's entire system to fail, leaving only her heartbeat active. Superman then expels all the nanites from his body. At the same time, Ultraman removes his broken mask, and Superman sees that he's a look-alike. Luthor explains that he created him from a strand of Superman's own hair. He's a clone. Superman finally understands how Luthor was able to enter his fortress. He had Ultraman, who shared his DNA. Ultraman attacks Superman again, preparing to kill him. Meanwhile, the Justice Gang arrives to save Jarhanpur, and with Metamorpho's help, they decimate the Boravian army. Hawkgirl then grabs the president of Boravia, flies him high into the air, and drops him to his death. In that time, the chief editor publishes the article exposing Luthor. Back in the fight, Ultraman is beating Superman badly. Just as he's about to win for the third time, Superman smiles and whistles for Krypto. In a flash, Krypto arrives and attacks Ultraman. Superman then tells Krypto to destroy all of Luthor's drones, which he uses to see and control Ultraman. In an instant, Krypto chews up and destroys all the drones. Now that Ultraman can't receive proper commands, Superman beats him senseless. Just then, thousands of Luthor's raptors arrive and attack Superman. But he spins in the air and uses his laser vision to cut through their suits, disabling all of them. Ultraman attacks Superman one more time, managing to block one of his hands. So Superman breaks his own shoulder to free his arm and slams Ultraman onto a falling bus, sending them both straight into the black hole. Luthor doesn't stop the rupture in time and instead opens a portal to escape with his people into the Pocket Universe. But Superman arrives and stops him. At the same time, Mr. Terrific arrives with Krypto's help. He enters the codes to stop the time rupture and reverses it, causing the crack and the damage to the city to undo themselves. After a while, the news reports all of Luthor's crimes, and the public realizes that Luthor is the traitor. The people once again see Superman as their true hero. Meanwhile, Green Lantern invites Metamorpho to join the Justice Gang because he liked the name of the team. All the prisoners held by Luthor are freed. Eve, seeing Jimmy, runs to him with joy and hugs him. Jimmy finally accepts her love. Later, under the guise of an interview, Superman takes Lane to a mall where they kiss and get lost in each other's arms. The editor sees them and realizes they're in love. The next morning, the ordinary man who helped Superman and was killed by Luthor is declared a true hero of the city. Superman rebuilds his fortress and robots. Just then, his cousin Kara arrives, drunk, to pick up Krypto, revealing that the dog was actually hers. Finally, Superman lies down on the stretcher to recover and plays the video of his parents again. But this time, the videos and messages are of his adoptive parents, and the story ends here. See you in the next one.